For the next several weeks, we will be studying the Bread of Life discourse in John chapter 6, taking a little break from the Gospel of Mark. Bread. Don't you just love bread? I'll tell you my most memorable experience with bread. It was in France when I was much younger. And, you know, they would get up early, these bread makers, these bakers, and by the time sunrise came, the whole streets are wafting with the aroma of French bread. And then we'd buy it, we'd take it back, and we'd put butter and jam on it. It's like to die for. Never had it like that around here. Now, when we think of bread in a very different way than the ancients thought of bread, because the ancients thought of bread as life itself. You see, they had to go out and they had to sow. And then they had to make sure that there was going to be a harvest and rain. And so a good pagan would pray to the gods. And so if you were in Egypt, you would pray to Osiris, the grain god. Or if you lived in Babylon, you would pray to Dagon, the grain god. Or if you were a Canaanite, to Dagon, or perhaps Baal, Greece, Demeter. If you were in Rome, Ceres, from which we get the word cereal from. So, if you wanted to live, you better be on good terms with the gods, because they provide for you life. And if there is no harvest, you face the prospects of death. Your God was your provider. Now, in the Old Testament, we see Joseph. He's in Egypt. And you all know the fact that he was able to interpret Pharaoh's dream, where he saw 7 big, fat, sleek cows, and then another 7 emaciated, bony ones coming up, and they ate the 7 cows, the fat cows, and he interpreted this as there's going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So what did Joseph do? He went and he gathered up all the grain, and during the first 7 years, and then in 7 years, he was giving it out. And he became in Egypt someone like Osiris, maybe the impersonation of Osiris, because he was provider, you see. And in the Old Testament, Yahweh is the provider. We know this when the children of Israel were in the desert. God provided manna. In our reading today, did you notice that this man who came to Elijah, he was offering the first fruits, the very first fruits of the barley harvest, because he was thankful to the God, Yahweh, who provided. But at this time, the people were of two opinions. A lot of people thought that Baal would be the provider and not God. And so there was the contest in ancient Israel. Who is going to provide food? Who's going to be the one that allows us to live? Now, we have Jesus in our gospel today. It says here that a multitude followed him because they saw the signs which he did on those who had diseases. So they were following him out in the wilderness, and John looks at the attitude of the crowd at this point, saying, you know, they want to be entertained, okay? They want to see some powerful works. They want to be jazzed up with seeing something really cool, you know? And Jesus knows this. But, you know, Jesus does do a sign for them. But it was a sign not to impress the crowd with his power. It was a sign to provide them bread, because they knew their Old Testament. They knew that God and God only provides bread and life. He wanted to show them that he was Yahweh when he broke the bread and distributed it. Now, I gave a lot of thought this week about how Jesus might be received if he came to the U.S. in 2018. Did you ever do something like that? Well, I thought about it, and the first thing that came to my mind, don't be disrespectful, but Jesus would probably need an agent or a promoter. I mean, after all, there's so much going on, How could he get the attention of this culture, right? And even then, if he caught the attention of the culture, then he'd have to book in advance. Maybe, Ravensfield or something like that, right? And then he had to compete with the schedule of the NFL. Wow. And then he'd get there, he would, what kind of miracle can he do? It was breaking the bread and fish. Everybody in the stands, man, they don't need to be fed like that. They've got brats, they've got burgers, and they've got beer. It's all there for them, And what could Jesus say, Repent and turn from your sins. People would say, sins? What's going on here? I'm a BGP. Do you know what a BGP is? It's a basically good person, okay? Hell? Well, there may be one, but that's for the really bad guys. I'm hedging my bets at the end when I die, So, we have, if we have a drought in one part of the country, what happens? Well, trucks will haul food there. The grocery stores are filled everywhere. We don't need God to provide for us in our culture. We provide it for ourselves. But our culture is very artificial. It doesn't have answers to the very basic issues like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? How can I live this life being mortal knowing I'm going to die? Wow. I say, I do funerals every once in a while, and what I'm seeing more and more is this. We have a casket there, and the coffin is open, and up above, I hear the strangest music. One time I heard Led Zeppelin, Highway to Heaven. I even heard Hotel California. I think I heard Freebird. And believe it, it might have been Rock and Roll Coochie Coo, but I'm not sure. But what am I saying here? What am I hearing? We have become artificial just like our culture. We're not asking the question. We're just moseying along. And when Jesus here is breaking the bread, opening himself up, do you know what he's saying to this rather superficial crowd? I am your provider. And in the rest of this chapter, for the rest of this week, or the rest of the weeks that we're going to be doing it, God's going to say, come on out. Come on out. I'm going to take you into deep places where you have never been before. And that's the challenge. We're just starting off this week with the whole idea of bread and Jesus the provider. It is his desire to bring us out, take us in a deeper place, to start thinking about eternity in a different way, thinking about himself, thinking about redemption. These are the issues of life.